Hello and welcome to my latest walkthrough, which is for Jet Set Willy. Now I know what you're thinking, has Jeff gone mad? Has he gone insane watching those big chunky Spectrum pixels and playing far too many Spectrum games? Well, I might well have done because, as you all know, I've already done a Jet Set Willy walkthrough. This one's a little bit different, and this one is a perfect walkthrough, and I know what you're thinking now, well, what does he mean by perfect? So, after I'd done Jet Set Willy, I kept playing Jet Set Willy 2 and did my walkthrough for Jet Set Willy 2, managed to complete that. Then I played a few other games, stopped playing Jet Set Willy for a while, and when I did my top 10, I recorded some Jet Set Willy video for that, and if you go back and look at the top 10, I actually don't play a very good game. I play a really bad game, and after that I thought, I want to get back into Jet Set Willy again, and I kind of became obsessed with it, to the point where I wondered if it was possible to complete Jet Set Willy only dying when it was strictly necessary. Now, to complete Jet Set Willy, you do need to die at least once when you get one of the items in the Conservatory Roof, but that is the only time I die in this entire game, so that's what I mean by perfect. So, in getting to the point where I could complete the game without losing a life, I had to develop some extra tips, some techniques for some of the rooms that made them that little bit easier, and I'll talk through those as I go through the game. The first thing, if you go back and watch my original Jet Set Willy walkthrough, is I actually died twice in the Conservatory Roof. So the first thing I had to figure out is how to actually get one of the objects without dying, which took me a little while actually. It took me quite a bit of time to work that out. I played the Conservatory Roof through quite a few times. Used the save state. I don't make any excuses for that. I did use a save state. The other thing I'll say is this walkthrough was recorded in one sitting. I started the game, I played it. I didn't use any rollbacks. I didn't use any save states or anything like that. But I did pause the emulator. Now, I don't consider that cheating because actually you could pause the game. And the reason why I pause the emulator and not the game is, who wants to watch a walkthrough where you've got to watch the game being paused? Nobody. So I pause the emulator, which pauses the recording as well. And here we are in the banyan tree. Actually, it's interesting because in the banyan tree, I now use the technique I came up with for getting through the banyan tree that I developed for Jet Set Willy 2. Slightly different to the one I used in Jet Set Willy, but only subtly different. And then we're into a bit of a tree. And of course, the original Jet Set Willy, as I said before, my original walkthrough, you couldn't complete. You have to put the official pokes in, so the 4 official pokes are in this one. This is Jet Set Willy with the official software project pokes, which make the banyan tree possible, so you can get up to here where I am now, and also mean that you don't have to go in for an infinite death. So this is the first technique, and actually what you need to do is stop on that conveyor belt and turn around, and the way you do that is you've got to kind of hammer the key really quickly. So when you get to just under that object, and there's only a few pixels you have a few pixels spare, but only a few, what you do is you take your finger off the key and drop it back down again really quickly, and that actually, you turn around but you stop dead, and that's the way you get that extra object that I didn't get in the Conservatory Roof when I did my original walkthrough. Now, we're in the orangery, and I developed a new technique for this, and what I realised is, when that red head coming down is about there, so level with that platform on the right, if you jump up vertically, it actually times it so that you can then jump across and get onto that platform without dying. I can actually do the orangey nearly every single time completely perfectly without losing a life now. When we come into the swimming pool, you of course just, when you enter the swimming pool from any direction, you immediately collect an object. And the next different technique that I developed for the game is coming up right now, and that's for the cold room. Now, anyone who's watched my previous walkthroughs will know that in Jet Set Willy and Jet Set Willy 2, both of those I die in the cold room. So I developed this new technique where you jump over that ice screen 3 times and then just drop off the end of that platform, and you catch just exactly the end of the rope. That's 2 times, and coming up to the 3rd time, and then if you just drop straight off the edge of that platform, you just drop onto the end of the rope, then you can turn round, and because you're right on the end of the rope, that makes this jump a lot easier. So you can jump a little bit later and not risk going onto the platform with the penguin. And that actually really makes that jump a lot easier. It's funny, when I developed that and worked that out, I thought, you know what, I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Now for the next few rooms, it's the same path that I took. I take pretty much the same path that I took in Jet Set Willy, except for I do the cold room really, really early on. And these are hard rooms, so to be honest with you, the room that I just can't find a better technique for, that I can't find an easier way to do it, is the tree route. And the next few rooms that you do, the wine cellar, the Forgotten Abbey, the tree route, and under the drive. Actually, it's under the drive, not the tree route. It's the really, really difficult one. Under the drive is really, really hard. Getting through there, they're quite difficult, and actually, it's not easy to do those rooms. But once you pass them, once you actually get to the foot of the mega tree, and actually doing the foot of the mega tree, because that's quite hard as well. Once you pass there, actually, that's by far the hardest part of the game. And what I actually did was, when I was doing the game, I kind of did this by accident. I just started playing Jet Set Willy one evening. I had been practicing a lot, and I somehow managed to complete the game without dying. And I didn't realise what I'd done. I was kind of in a bit of shock when I did it, but I hadn't recorded it. And that was about 2 weeks ago. And it's taken me 2 weeks to be able to complete another game without dying, and this is it. And I recorded it lots of times, and I died lots of times on the Conservatory Roof, actually, because I hadn't done the technique to get that object without dying this time round. I hadn't practiced that a lot. I died a lot of times just there, and I died a lot of times under the drive, because that under the drive piece is still really difficult. Now, as a few people pointed out to me, in my last walkthrough, I didn't do a shout out. And I'm not going to do a shout out in this walkthrough. What I'm going to do in this walkthrough is, I think this is probably the best gaming achievement I've ever had. And I think what I'll do, therefore, is dedicate this to probably one of the best programmers, certainly of Spectrum games there ever was, which is, of course, the programmer of this game, Matthew Smith. Matthew Smith is an absolute genius. His games, Manic Miner and Jet Set Willy, were absolutely amazing and really, really kind of started a trend in platform games that continues to this very day, and were such imaginative, brilliant games. He was an absolute genius. So, Matthew, I don't know if you're listening, I don't know if you'll ever listen to this, but if you do, thank you very much for what you did. It was really, really appreciated, certainly by me, and I got to the point where I got so obsessed with one of your games, I practiced for hours and hours and hours until I could complete it without losing one single life. So, if anybody else has actually managed to do this, actually managed to complete Jet Set Willy, only losing that one life that you need to, or even better, if anyone else has completed it losing no lives and actually knows a way to get that other item on the Conservatory without losing a life, please let me know. I'd love to hear from anyone who's managed to do this. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure somebody else must have actually done this in the past. I can't be the only person ever to have done this. So please let me know if you have. Now, here we are in the tree route, and strangely enough, as I said, I'd recorded this a few times, and when I got to this point, I started to get sweaty palms and feeling a bit nervous, and I remember kind of saying to myself, look, you've done under the drive a load of times, you've actually managed to do it without losing a life quite a few times. I've lost lives other places, once having gone through there, but I have actually done it a few times without losing a life. You can do this, just relax, don't worry about it too much. And actually, I think that's the secret, because if you don't relax, once you get nervous and you start to tense up, that's when you start to make little tiny mistakes of timing and lose a life. And one thing I did do is I just practiced this again and again and again before doing it. So here we come through. Yeah, that's the jump. You've got to get that jump pixel perfect and on the move on a conveyor belt. And that allows you just to clip the end of that platform. And then you've got to do another pixel perfect jump, which is on the move, which is when you jump off this platform onto that upper right platform. Now the next difficult piece is coming right up, and I didn't get this quite right. So as you can see, that jump there, actually you should get that bottle that I'm just under now, plus the other one. And what I'm glad to say I didn't do is panic there. I just went back and went back out the room and came back in, so kind of reset the timing of the room and did it again. And that's actually a good technique. If anything doesn't go to a plan and you're playing this game, It really is about not panicking and just almost recessing where you were and doing it again. Funnily enough, I feel like pointing out the differences between this game and Jet Set Willy 2, because of course in Jet Set Willy 2 I just went straight up the Mega Tree there and didn't take this path here because you end up in the garden, which is a really difficult room. But in this one you don't. You end up at the bridge, and then from the bridge you go straight into the off license. I think that jump over the bridge you have a pixel to spare, which is good. In fact, I know you have a pixel to spare, you do. Now in the off license, the trick is you're going to make sure that you don't get to the end of that conveyor belt where the green baddie is under all the bottles before you jump. Otherwise you hit your head off that switch and you'll die. So you kind of want to jump round about when you're under the second off last bottle, so just, yeah, there. If anything, that was almost a bit late. Jump back and get that bottle, go back across, and then follow the green baddie and get the final bottle. There is, I think, a mod of Jet Set Willy where, from the off license, the lower right-hand wall is actually missing, and you can go into some other rooms. I think I've seen quite a few mods of Jet Set Willy where you can do that. So when I was recording this game, and what I was thinking is, every time I was at a certain point of the game, I was kind of thinking ahead a little bit. I was trying to stay in the moment and concentrate on what I was doing, because of course one tiny slip, one thing you do wrong, one slip, one mistake, and that's it, your perfect game is over. But I was thinking ahead to the next difficult room, and it's actually under the Mega Tree. This room here can be tricky, and it's very easy to get wrong. It's a bit fiddly. Not as fiddly as some of the rooms in Jet Set Willy 2. I remember when I was doing Jet Set Willy 2 seeing that the trip switch was really fiddly, and I think I'd say the same of this room. It's not as bad as the trip switch. I think the trip switch in Jet Set Willy 2 is an awful room. But this room's pretty fiddly. You've got to go backwards and forwards, and that pig flying up the top gets in your way a lot, and you've got to wait for him to go behind you or in front of you. Like at this point, you don't want to jump up onto that platform until he's come back past. So you've got to wait quite a bit. And of course, that's the bottom of the cuckoo's nest above, which is deadly. If you hit that, you're going to die. Luckily, those red platforms to the left don't kill you, and none of the green platforms kill you, of course. And that head doesn't go all the way down to the ground, so it only takes quite a short path, which means that it can be quite difficult to jump past. So here I actually time the jump so the head's still on the way up a little bit when I jump, and I wait until the pig goes past, so again waiting for the pig, and then yeah, you jump there, so the head's just going up a little bit. What you can do sometimes is catch on that platform, the middle platform, the single one, as you jump past him, and if you keep your finger on jump when you do that, you'll hit your head off the nest and die there. So there's somewhere. Now, thinking ahead again, the cuckoo's nest is a little bit tricky actually. It's quite a hard room, but I've done it so many times that I've kind of got the rhythm for this one quite well. But the next difficult one is actually when you just start coming back down the tree, which you'll see in a bit. There's quite a difficult jump, and I'll describe that when I get to it. One thing I will mention that I haven't before in these walkthroughs is there are a load of Jet Set Willy remakes. So the game format, the game engine for Jet Set Willy is really well written. Back again to my comment about the genius of Matthew Smith and how good a coder he was. He actually wrote the format and the game engine very separately, so you can edit the game quite easily, and a lot of people have done that, and a lot of people have done that, and there are a lot of remakes out there. If you go to the World of Spectrum site, you can find a lot. And one of the guys who did a lot of that was someone called Andrew Broad. He did a lot of the early ones. There's a lot of Jet Set Willy and Manic Miner kind of remakes, and well, not so much remakes as re-imagings. that he did, and unfortunately, I think his page has disappeared. I had it bookmarked, and I had it bookmarked for years, and it was quite good. I mean, it was a basic page, but it was really really good, and I think it's disappeared. If anyone knows what happened to that, if that page has been moved somewhere else, please put a link. I mean, I'd like to see it as well, but for anyone watching this walkthrough, any fan of Spectrum games, I think Andrew Broad's web pages that he did about Manic Miner and Jet Set Willy, and the links that he had on that, and his remakes were really, really good. As I say, you probably can get quite a few of them from World of Spectrum anyway. So it's the treetop, and it's when you come back into this room. Going back to what I said about the next difficult piece, it's the treetop when you come back into this room. Now this room isn't easy, I don't think. It's slightly tricky, but it seems so much easier once you've done it in Jet Set Willy 2. Because in Jet Set Willy 2 in this room, there are loads and loads of arrows, and there aren't any arrows in Jet Set Willy 1. I was quite surprised when I came back from doing Jet Set Willy 2 and started playing Jet Set Willy 1 again, and it came into Out on a Limb. It was, where's all the arrows gone? The arrows fired really, really quickly. There was an arrow firing quite quickly in Out on a Limb, and it was. I died a lot of times. Willy got an arrow in the head in this room quite a few times when I was playing, and yet in Jet Set Willy 1 there aren't any arrows at all, which slightly surprised me. I expected there to be an arrow in this room, but there wasn't. It's very easy to kind of drop down and die in this room as well, and getting into an infinite death in the room below. I know my cousin Stuart, who I've given a shout out before, has been practicing this, and that's one of the things he said to me. I said, "Have you completed Jet Set Willy yet?" And he said, "Oh no, I'll keep dying." So it's here where difficult, and you just got to pause for that split second when you come in the treetop. If you jump too soon, you hit that yellow sunflower, and if you jump too late, you get that arrow in the head. That's exactly the same. All the techniques at the moment are pretty much the same that I used in my original walkthrough now. I think there are one or two differences that we'll get to later on. There's one or two new techniques, but they're pretty much all the same now. This piece certainly is. So another good source of information on Jet Set Willy and Manic Miner remakes are the Spectrum Bible books. So if you go to a site called lulu.com, and you can buy a series of books called the Spectrum Bibles, and they're split up into different years, and they start with, I think it's 82 to 84, which is fantastic. It's all the early games, and those books were interesting because they were kind of edited by two guys whose names I can't remember at the moment, but they actually paid people to do little reviews, and you could get 50 pence for doing a review. I actually did a review of Mike Singleton's War in Middle Earth for one of the books, and what you could do is you could just donate your 50p fee to charity if you wanted to do, which I did. I said, yeah, I don't want the fee, just give the money straight to charity. And yeah, those books have people writing in, and they did a series of them. So they went all through the life of the Spectrum, and then they went from 2000 to 2000X, and those were all the kind of homebrew games that hobbyists have done since the kind of commercial demise of the Spectrum. And in that last one, there are lots and lots of reviews of Spectrum games, of Jet Set Willy remake games. So if you're looking for some good Jet Set Willy remakes, go and have a look at that. They're well worth playing. There's some quite interesting ones. Now this is different because what I realised in the Ballroom West was that previously what I've been waiting is for ages and ages and ages for that blue head to line up into the correct position, and the rabbit to be in the correct position, so I could jump over the rabbit and then just walk past the head as it moved up past me. And you have to wait for quite a while to do that if you come into the room and collect the objects and go back to the start and wait. But what I realised is that when you first come into the room, the head almost immediately does that. So what I do there is, what you'll have seen if you go back and look, is I collect the objects that you can from the conveyor belt, just walk straight to the left in the room and collect them, and then go back, and instead of just waiting, I go back out the room and come back in again, and that resets the room. That's that reset the room technique. So that's a good technique. I do that differently. Now you've got to go back through that room later in the game to get to the end when you complete it. But as you can see, I've got 56 items now and have only died that one time. Now at this point, the other thing that happened was I started to think, right, I've done this last little bit quite a few times without dying in practice. I know I can get to the end without dying, so I started to think, well, what happens if I do this? What am I going to do? I'm going to put it on YouTube, but this will be like, as I say, probably the best gaming achievement I've ever done. And this obsession that I had with Jet Set Willy, hopefully it's over now. Hopefully I've got it out of my system by doing this. Certainly hope so. And I was thinking, wow, if I do this, this will be absolutely incredible. And of course, that's dangerous because if you start thinking ahead and start thinking, oh, I might do this, what am I going to do if I do it? Go out and buy some champagne to celebrate, etc., etc. Again, it can take your concentration away from the game, and you can't make one single slip up. And this bit here is the technique I used in the first walkthrough, which is quite good. Once you've done that, if you just jump up 3 times, you can on the third jump, you can just jump straight over and you're safe. And that kind of timing I use every time I go through the kitchen now. Of course, when you come up here, you come back through to the banyan tree. One of the strange things about this game is this bit is like that, and there's another bit coming up where you go up the east wall as well. Is sometimes you can get loads and loads and loads of objects with not too much effort. Where it's not too hard to get them. The off license is a really good example of that. There's 12 objects in the off license, and yeah, you've got to time a few jumps right, but it's not anywhere near as much effort as it is getting that one object at the bottom of the banyan tree. And the same is true going up the east wall. You've got to go all the way up the east wall for one single object at the top, and it's not easy. It's quite difficult. And the next place I'm going to go is into the chapel. And the technique I'm using here is different to the one I used in Jet Set Willy. Is the technique I developed in Jet Set Willy 2. So waiting for the purple priest to actually come to you and then jump over him at the start is the one that I did there. But this technique's the same, but of course this room's different in Jet Set Willy 2. I love that priest's head sprite. I'm sure I've said that before. I love that great big huge sprite. It's absolutely fantastic. I think I read in an interview once Matthew Smith saying that he was really, really good at sprite design, and I think that sprite just proves it. It's absolutely superb. There weren't many kind of really big chunky sprites like that in Spectrum games. Certainly not in 1983, 84 when Jet Set Willy came out. And the good thing about the chapel, of course, in Jet Set Willy 1 is that you can come out of it the other way. You don't have to mess around with it just because of you don't have those extra really difficult to get through rooms. The library. I used to have nightmares about the library when I was practicing Jet Set Willy 2. And of course, this room is the next one is the hall, and that's slightly different. I just wait for those. I used to jump over the pig and try and time it so I didn't get that second arrow in the head that comes along the top. There's the invisible item that's in this room that's been moved from the first landing by the porks. Just turned around to make sure I got it. But a lot of the new different techniques and things I developed in doing this game, such as the timing in the orangery. I used to find the timing in the orangery really hard until I worked out that when that head was lined up with that little platform kind of at the other side of where you've got to jump to, that if you just did a vertical jump, you could then just do a jump straight across, and that got the timing right. And here we come up the east wall. This bit's not easy, it's quite tricky. I remember concentrating. It's the room at the top of the east wall that's the really difficult one. East wall base, and the next room, which is halfway up the east wall. They're not too bad. You've got to time things pretty well in this one, but again, this was the point where I was starting to get sweaty palms and feeling a bit nervous and thinking to myself, no, just relax. Yeah, the priest saw. Get that jump just right, so you've got no pixels to spare in that one. And again, I do this the way I developed for Jet Set Willy too. So I used to jump over that sprite, that big priest sprite, but I now jump under it. It's safer jumping under it. If you miss it, you can survive. That's not too hard a jump. There you go, all the way up that wall just for one item. Whereas in the off license, there's 12 readily available. Now, in Jet Set Willy 1, I died at this point, so I've actually got my finger on jump there. When I go into the emergency generator, I forgot to jump and just fell down and died. So since then, I've always had my finger on jump, even when I go into the room, even before I go into the room on the emergency generator. And Dr. Jones will never believe this. The trick in this room, if anyone can't remember, is when you get to there, you wait until he gets to the bottom before you go. Here we are in the attic. Of course, the official folks fixed the attic bug, which is really good. I'm really pleased about. That's the technique I developed for doing this room in Jet Set Willy 2 as well. Now the next difficult room after those, the one that was on my mind next at this point, is the beach. The beach is quite tricky. Negotiating your way past all those crabs on the beach is quite difficult. I still get a shock sometimes when I come into the conservatory and that pair of clippers is so close to you. Now it develops another new technique for the tool shed, which is coming up. It was again, it was a timing technique, and it was a timing technique that helps make sure you get it right every time. It just cuts any margin of error out of it. So you'll see in a bit. It's coming back across at the end. So basically, with the tool shed, you go work your way down to the left-hand corner, and then you have to work your way kind of all the way around the side of the room back up to the top. Trick here is to wait for the third time that the green shears at the top come over and follow them, and then jump over, turn around and drop down, and just be a bit patient and drop down again. Remember that saw is going to turn around there. So what I realised is, if you stand there and you wait, well, you just jump just as those green shears get to that middle piece of platform, that one I've just landed on. When the left-hand side of those shears just get to the right edge of that platform, if you jump vertically there, you can just keep your finger on jump and press down left, and just keep on left and jump, and you'll just go across there, and you'll time perfectly right. You'll just jump across, and you'll be all right. Now, the technique in this room is to get to the end of the rope, so that when you turn around, you can be precise about where you drop off that rope, and then you've got to jump straight away. The rope comes back and picks you up. Well, I've died a few times in there. It's not the hardest. It's a little bit tricky. Now at this point, I was starting to get really ultra cautious. I'd gone to the end, and like I say, I've done these rooms before without dying. I've had runs through where I've done these ones without dying quite a few times, but all the hard rooms are at the start, but you can still die on them. There's still a lot of things that can kill you in this game. I remember once I got to here, it wasn't perfect, but I had quite a few lives left, and off that off that little single platform, I jumped again and just forgot that that isn't what you do. You need to drop down rather than jump again. That's a lot easier in Jet Set Willy 1 than Jet Set Willy 2. You get a lot more time to turn around in Jet Set Willy 1 than you do in Jet Set Willy 2 for that one. You've got to make your way out from the bow. Now the jump to get down off the back of the yacht here has to be pixel perfect, but you just have to, it's just there. And you can jump up and use the jump up and then put your finger on, keep your finger on jump and put it on the direction you're facing to get that pixel perfect where you need to. I always jump there just in case the flag comes up and catches me as I walk away. And we are back across the beach, so it's just up across the top of the house now and get a few objects there, then back up to the top. And really in my mind now, I think the next really difficult room when you get to this point is the watchtower. The watchtower's a bit tricky. And I practiced the watchtower quite a bit to make sure that I'd be able to do that as well. I think I probably said I've practiced X, Y, and Z quite a lot. The way to get good at this game is practice. And a lot of it's about either learning exactly where to stand, learning where you need to jump and where you need to position yourself before you do a jump, or learning the rhythm of the room, learning that you can do certain things at a certain time. There's a kind of rhythm to when you jump. Now, for anyone doing it, one to watch is when you come into this room, because you drop down there and you can jump over the first obstacle, but you've got to wait for the arrow before you do any more. Again, you just keep going and time them now. There's not another arrow going to come and hit you in the head if you just jump over them all like that. This bit's quite tricky. Getting back past the baddies, once you've got all the objects, when you turn around, you've got to either do an incredibly well-timed moving jump or a good vertical jump. I think you have more room for error on the vertical jump, which is why I choose that at that point. A friend of mine who watched the Jet Set Willy 1 video did mention that he finds vertical jumps really hard to do. I think it's just what you're used to and what you practice, as I said. Now, when I did my original walkthrough Jet Set Willy 1, I actually died in this room and lost my last life. So I've got 6 lives at the moment, but the rule is it's got to be perfect, so I can't lose any of them. But once I was past this room, I remember thinking to myself, well, when I did my original walkthrough, when I recorded that walkthrough, I managed all the rest of these rooms without dying once, so I should be able to do it again. I like this room. There's something good about this room. It's kind of just challenging enough. It is quite tricky. I think, well, actually I've done it. You can just jump onto the rope over the bunny as you come back, but I tend not to do that. I like to do it that way. It's the way I'm used to. And when you're going for a perfect game, you want to do the way you're used to. Now this next room, you want to do quickly. You don't want to have a second arrow come, because it's hard to know when it is, and it's coming across the bottom. So my rule in this room is get through quickly. Now in this one, that really scared me, because I'm pretty sure I got onto the very, very last pixel of that rope there. When I actually jumped, I thought that jump's a bit late, and my heart was in my mouth. I thought, I've come all this way, I've nearly completed the game, and I've just nearly died. On the watchtower, when you first come into it, you just keep your finger on left and jump, you can just get that object to the left, no problem at all. You just collect it. This is fiddly. Like I said, this is kind of the last not the last one that's difficult, but this bit here. And funnily enough, you got a pixel to spare there, and I used it. Drop down. Only a few more objects to go now. Again, there's no room for error, as you can see. Now this room's different, so I'm sure I've seen this before. It's different up on the battlements, because in this one I don't hurry, I wait. I think this one you're better off having patience, because another 2 arrows will come in a little piece, or what, in a little bit of time. So I wait there for the arrows, because the worst thing is you kind of try and hurry through this before there's any more arrows come. And that one there, I actually tried to jump up to the object in the end, and that one there's got me in the head once or twice. You don't want that, especially not when you've got this far. And there we go. Rescue Esmeralda. Nearly there. You need 83 items to complete the game. There's 2 in this room, which you won't get quite yet. And there is 1 on the top of the house, right at the top of the flagpole. So we're very, very nearly there. I remember when I first did my original walkthrough of Jet Set Willy, someone said they didn't realise you could jump through there and get to the ballroom east. I'm glad you can, because it would be a long way back. It would actually be quite difficult getting back. You'd have to go a very, very long way to get back to the start. So you say you come back in and go out, and you want to jump there. That makes it a lot quicker to do this room. I wouldn't say easier, because you've got a time to jump the same as you would anyway if you'd have waited. And we're nearly there. And right at the end I do something, I wouldn't call this a new technique, it's more cowardice, fear. So instead of jumping over, I was so nervous at this point, I realised that I didn't even want to jump over the last baddie to get into the master bedroom. So I came through here, I just waited. I thought I can be patient, I can definitely be patient at this point in the game if it means I know I definitely won't die. And then if you walk down here, of course, you can just drop off the ends and walk straight in without having to avoid any baddies at all, making sure that I didn't have to do anything where I could possibly mess up. And there you go, that's it. That's Jet Set Willy completed, only losing 1 life, and that life is necessary. You can't complete it without losing that life. At least I haven't found a way. And believe me, I've tried. It's pretty obvious it's impossible though to get that item in the conservatory. So there we go. Now, of course, you know what I'm going to say. That was so good. Let's watch it all again. So as Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor comes to an end, Willy and his fast run through has nearly come to an end as well. I hope you enjoyed that. I've enjoyed making it. Really enjoyed making it. It's been a bit frustrating at times, but there you go. Games can be like that. I think it's part of the fun of them. So as Willy's feet stick out the toilet for what may be the final time for me, we can only hope, it's only left for me to say happy gaming.